Morning, especially Americans. It's a lovely day here, and I'm sure many of you are thinking of coming to the Philippines to make this your new found choice in life. I pose a question, especially to those ex-military, the ones that have actually seen real combat in their lives, on the front line, so to speak. Did your officers embed in your mind that every time you face the enemy, that if things got too hard, you'd run away? Really? I don't think so. Many of you have, I'm sure, lived through some horrendous events in your lives. And likewise, those without military background, anywhere in the world. I'm sure that you've faced divorce, separation, anguish. Did you run away? Did you run with your tail between your legs and say, oh well, start again? I suggest maybe you didn't, not at the start. I suggest that what you did is you stood and fought. You tried your level best to try and work things out. You did your level best to at least get some sanity into your mind that what was happening to you was something that you too could control the narrative rather than one person dominate the field. Just like the enemy. The enemy, I'm sure in history, if we look back at battles that were fought against what would be unquestionable odds, thousands of men against maybe 100 others, seemingly impossible task. But those with the courage fought back gallantly. Some maybe lost their lives, but history will show that in many cases they won the battle. Because why? Because they stayed and they fought. And they tried to realize that by being determined not to lose, that they then could overcome amazing odds. Sorry about my dog. I will sort that out right now. Just wait 1 minute. Somebody is talking at the gate. Sorry about that. These things happen. One of my neighbours decided that outside my front gate was a good place to start chatting. Then hence the dogs started yapping. I shut the door, and just as I shut the door, they got on their bikes and went yonder. But back to my point. So many of you, and yes, I am addressing Americans, not picking on you, but I'm addressing you. Some without the lack of ability to understand how life truly is outside of America do find it difficult here in the Philippines, adjusting to things that are not normal in the sense they're normal to Filipino and to Filipino. But for us, coming from the West, we just cannot fathom why they do things this way. Within relationships, the same applies, Yes, your wife, your ex-wives used to be a pain in the ass sometimes, and you used to say it to them. Without fear of offending them, you just got your point across. Try and do that here, and it's like confrontation time. No Filipino or Filipina likes to deal with a problem. it's easier just to run away and hide, be a coward. That's what they are. They're cowards. That doesn't mean all Filipinos are cowards, because in history, again, you look back, there's some very heroic people in history here in the Philippines who stood up against the Americans, stood up against the English, stood up against the Spanish. And they've become a legend in history. But unfortunately, many Filipino here like the shape of your wallet. But when it suits them, that dims in their lives. They don't see it as the big picture. They're quite happy to shoot themselves in the foot. And so often they do. You only have to look at, sadly, many what appear to be solid, good relationships here in the Philippines just peter away to he said this, she said that. You only have to look at the videos that are coming out of here to realize it. And the criticism of many is, of course, they have all the answers. If, of course, they had them, we'd all be listening. But they recently attacked the efforts of an Australian. No, not me, another Australian, who was asked by a lady to see if he could help her father over here. And of course, he was a million miles away in Mindanao and not able to just hop on a plane at any given point to offer help and sanctuary to an expat in difficulty. But of course, there's always somebody that will turn around and say, well, look at him. He's not a true Aussie. Why? Because he just can't help? Sometimes we just can't help. Sometimes it is beyond our realm. And for those that are able to, congratulations to those that can. But then to attack him on the basis that he did his best and his best didn't meet the standards of the viewer, to make a comment about him, I think was verging on being a troll. Think people, I love the comments. I think the comments bring life to a channel. But there again, there are some there that just can't help themselves. They have to bring with them their own prejudice and their own stupidity. I'll put it that way, stupidity. Sometimes maybe you need to stop and think before you start. If you've got something relevant, something helpful, fine. But if all you're going to do is make snide remarks, comment on others, including other channels, then I'm afraid you won't get a look in on this channel or any other one that I happen to be on. Because it's fair and reasonable that we sort the shit from the fan. It doesn't have to be full of rubbish. It can have positive messages. Sure, some are on the edge of positive, a bit negative, and I'll let them slip through. But some are just plain out negative and attempting to bring the moment down, missing the message, missing what the messenger said. But nevertheless, some I let through. But some I let the algorithm out the door. I get to read them, by the way. I get to read them because they ask me whether I want to keep it, put it back up, or hide that person from the channel. And sadly, many channels go through that every day. I'm not the only one. I do get some weird ones on this channel, as opposed to those that used to go on a British expat in the Philippines. But like I said this morning, it's not helpful. You're not achieving anything by abandoning the other channel. It's not doing anything but hurting me. The fact that I want to help one person in this family with the income that's generated from that channel, which I do appreciate, you think somehow by stop viewing that channel, stop supporting it, you're getting back at somebody that you think needs it, deserves it? You're not really. I pleaded to get it back on because there's 8,000 plus subscribers. That means that 8,000 people believed in me and Jane and the family as a whole. And to abandon because of one, we'll call it misguided person, I think it's wrong. It's not sending the right message. Because remember, she who must not be mentioned, which I've just mentioned before, has her friend watching, scrutinizing, putting their tuppence worth in. And sooner or later, I think, common sense will. It doesn't matter that my relationship might be over, but I hope that one day she who must not be mentioned will realize that she's being used at a moment when maybe she is down, maybe she is easily led by an ugly, horrible person. And that's my opinion. It's maybe not hers. But I believe she's stronger than that. And I think sooner or later, whether she comes to her senses or not, she will realize that I have been strong, that I have stood behind her all the way, and everybody else in the family. And trying to hurt her by attacking what essentially is my channel, even though a lot of the control on the day-to-day basis could and sometimes is brought into play. But we've managed to get through that. Look at how many years has that been on, off, on, off? But you guys have still followed me. And I'm pleased that when it is off, I have the Grumpy Brett in the Philippines to fall back on, to get my message out there. So that's my thought for the day. I'm sorry about yesterday. I just couldn't really come up with anything that provoked me enough. Some days you get that, and what's the point of putting something up that has no purpose and no meaning? So if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to keep on watching, keep on trucking, as they say. And remember, I'm on both channels, and I will always be on both channels. So if you like listening to my thoughts, if you like them, you have a like to spar with me a little bit, that's fine. But don't ignore it. Don't ignore the fact that I'm trying hard. I'm not going to give up the battle, like I said at the beginning. I face my enemy. I don't run away from it. Bye now.